God can help us be aware of where we are, so our weaknesses are useful because God can be glorified through the way He helps us overcome those weaknesses. So whether you have strengths or weaknesses shouldn't lead to us being negative or positive about ourselves. It should lead to us being aware of ourselves.
Let's get into it. First question is about self-awareness. The idea of being self-aware is scary to me. How do I overcome my desire to avoid self-awareness because of my fear of the negative feelings that might initially come with it?
So the issue of scary, maybe the best way to look at it is to watch an old episode or maybe a current episode of American Idol. One of the things that I always found interesting about American Idol is that these young singers, more often than not, younger than me anyway, would come in and they'd be judged by people. And back in the days when Simon Cowell, I think his name's Cowell, when Simon was there, it could get a little rough because Simon would just tell somebody they weren't any good at singing, you know. But I felt like what it was sort of a real experiment, to me, social experiment, in how do people deal with what other people think of them if it does not match what they think of themselves. And James 1 talks about the fact that the Bible is like a mirror. The beauty of a mirror is you're able to look at it and see what you look like before you leave the house. When I watched American Idol, there would be people who would walk in there who did not think they were great singers. And the reason they didn't think they were great singers is they had mentors who gave them an idea of how good they were. And so they had other people coaching them up or giving them some honest input. And so when they walked in, they were pleasantly surprised to hear positive feedback. But there were other people who said, oh, everybody told me I'm great. But those people clearly hadn't told them the truth. And so those people were crushed. Well, what do we learn from that? One, God can help us be aware of where we are and whether we have strengths or weaknesses. Our weaknesses are good. 2 Corinthians 12 says that God's power is perfected in weakness. So our weaknesses are useful because God can be glorified through the way He helps us overcome those weaknesses and conquer them. And our strengths can be a benefit because God can use those in a powerful way. So whether you have strengths or weaknesses shouldn't lead to us being negative or positive about ourselves. It should lead to us being aware of ourselves. And so I'm, because of the things I said, you know, I want to control outcomes. I want to be driven. I want structure. My wife is great because she doesn't feel the need for, she can relax. She can go, oh, and so we're a perfect complement. She's motivated, she's driven, but she's not, you know, neurotic. And so she can go ahead and do those things. And it complements me. So sometimes the way our weaknesses are strengthened is by being honest with other people who can complement those weaknesses. They may bring their strength to the table to compensate for our weakness, and our strength may compensate for their weaknesses. So when it comes to being scary, I think what we have to start with is get a relationship with God where you can be confident when you tell God your strengths, your weaknesses, your hopes, your dreams, your sad moments and your losses, whatever they may be. You're aware of them. You already know from your relationship with God about them. And so what I recommend to people who are scary is something that I mentioned. Sam Lang, he passed away some time ago, and not some time ago, recently, a really inspiring man of God, a really inspiring friend. He taught me something when I was in the process of getting married. I sat down with him and I said, I'm really insecure. I just, I get these insecure feelings, and I describe my insecure feelings as a leader, my insecure feelings because I was feeling like I'm always sinful, I'm always bad, that kind of thing. Right. And I'm anxious a lot that something's going to come up, or someone's going to bring something up to me, or someone's going to say something to me. And he said, well, Russ, one of the things I think that has helped me with that is in my relationship with God, I'm always completely honest with God about everything. When I read my Bible, I let God show me whatever He needs to show me. I don't run away from it. I try to dive into it. And so what I begin to do is get my Bible out and say, I want to know the truth. I want to know the positive truths, but I want to know the not so positive truths. I want to know the areas where I'm strong, but I also want to know the areas where I'm weak. And when I did that and I listened to His instruction, what happened is that I got to a place where I was way less insecure because I wasn't going to be surprised by anything. Now, why wasn't I surprised? Sam told me, whenever you're transparent with God and you're honest with God, no one will ever surprise you with something they say to you or something they bring up to you or a critique of you. So I guess the scary part, those are some answers to how to deal with the scary part. And I could go into getting relationships of love, understanding God loves you. There's a lot there, but that's some of the stuff people can do.
Well, yeah, that makes me think. I've had that experience in band settings, like I've had times where I got to sing a part and, I go a little stray a little too far, and I've had our friend John, I can't remember if he's been on this podcast or not, but, he go, hey, bro, you don't need to be doing that, man. You need to reel it back in a little. That's not your place. That's not your zone. I'm like, okay.
There's a difference between Bruce Springsteen and Celine Dion. There's a difference between Bob Dylan and Luther Vandross. I mean, there's a difference. Right. And you know what? That's okay.
Well, and the other way too, right? Like I've had times where I'm a little more self-conscious playing a guitar part I'm like, that's no good. And then, my friend Brandon would be like, what are you doing, man? Play that louder. That's what the song needs.
Yes,
so in both cases, the song is better, right? Me reeling it in and getting my ego in check and learning to not be so self-conscious. So that
100%.